Good morning, students. Welcome. Students, in the previous session, I was telling you about the basic concepts of macroeconomics related to national income accounting, and I discussed with you the concept of domestic territory. Again, I'm reminding you, this is just a gist of whatever I have taught you, so that there is no problem in understanding the further concepts related to national income accounting. So, the next concept is related to normal resident. Now, who is a normal resident? A normal resident can be an individual or it can be an institution or organization. So, a normal resident can be an institution or organization who ordinarily resides in a country and whose period of stay should exceed 1 year, and even whose economic interest should also lie in the country where that person is residing. So I'm again repeating, the normal resident is an individual or an institution who ordinarily resides in a country, whose economic interest lies in that country, and whose period of stay should exceed 1 year. So this is what is a normal resident. Now when comes the concept of normal resident, it is important to understand the concept of citizenship. Now I am a citizen of India, or I can say I'm an Indian citizen. Why do I say this? Because I'm born in India. That is why I have the citizenship of India. Similarly, if you are born in India, you have the citizenship of India. That means, how do you acquire the citizenship of any country? By birth or by fulfilling the legal laws of that country, right? And how do you become the resident of any country? The residentship is an economic concept. When we say you are, you're residing in any country for a period exceeding more than 1 year, right? And your economic interest is also lying in that country. That means you are earning in that country, you are spending in that country, and you are accumulating in that country. So that means when your economic interest lies in any country where you are residing and your period of stay exceeds 1 year, so you are considered the resident of that country. Now let's take an example of the same. An American residing in India for the last 6 months and working in India only. So this person is not the normal resident of India, because though his economic interest lies in India, but his period of stay did not exceed 1 year. So he will be considered the normal resident of America and not of India till the time he does not exceed a period of 1 year. So this is what is normal resident. Now when we talk about normal resident, there are certain cases which are excluded from this term. If I talk about a student who goes to Australia to study further, maybe for a 4-year degree course, so the student who goes to Australia will be considered the normal resident of India and not of Australia, because his economic interest, though his period of stay is exceeding 1 year, but his economic interest does not lie in Australia, it lies in India only. So he will be considered the normal resident of India and not of Australia. Similarly, we see a lot of people coming in India for medical tourism purpose. So they will be considered the normal resident of the country to whatever country they belong to, because their economic interest is not lying here. They are only coming here for medical tourism purpose. Next, we talk about the border workers. The border workers, since they work on border, they move in and out every time, now and then. So they will be considered the normal resident of the country to which they belong to. Similarly, students, we talk about the crew members. The crew members in aircrafts or in waterways or in a cruise. So these crew members will be the normal resident of the country to which they belong to and not of any other country where they are traveling overseas. Next, we talk about students, the embassies, the foreign staff of the embassies. Now, foreign staff of the embassies will be the normal resident of the country to which they belong to rather than the place where they are working. So let us take an example to understand this. Suppose, Indian embassy located in America, right? So the Americans can be working in that Indian embassy which is located in America. So these Americans for our country India will be considered foreign staff. Now, these Americans who are foreign staff for our embassy will be considered the normal resident of America and not of India. So, this is one exception. The next is regarding the international organization. Any office of international organization lying in your domestic territory or lying in your country will be the normal resident of that international area to which it belongs to. Now we talk about the Indians, and suppose a WHO office which is located in India. Now this WHO office which is located in India, and maybe Indians are working in this office. So these Indians will be the normal resident of India and not of international area. Similarly, if for example in this WHO office which is located in India, some Chinese are also working. So these Chinese will be the normal resident of China and not of India, neither of India nor of international area. The third case here to be specified here is that suppose these Chinese who are working in this international organization which is located in India and their period of work exceeds 1 year. So now they will be considered the normal resident of India and not of China. So I hope these cases are clear to all of you. So this is what the concept of normal resident was taught to you. Then students will talk about the concept of factor income and transfer income. Now factor income is earned income and transfer income is unearned income. Like factor income, I am doing some productive services. I am producing teaching services. Against my teaching services, I am being paid by my organization. So this is a factor income which I am earning. Any work or any income which you are earning out of your productive services is your factor income, which is also known as earned income. And any income which you are earning out of your only it is a transfer, it is one-sided payment or one-sided receipt is transfer income. Suppose if you are as a student, if you are getting pocket money or pocket allowance from your parents, that is a transfer income. And transfer income is never included in the calculation of domestic or national income. Only factor income is always included in the calculation of domestic and national income, because if you include transfer income, it leads to double counting and it is out of the non-productive activities. Next, some examples. Let us quote. Factor income is which the factors of production are generating, that is land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. So the example of factor income can be rent, wages and salaries, interest, profit, bonus, retirement pension. These all are the examples of factor income. Transfer income can be old age pension, unemployment allowance, then donation, charity, scholarship, taxes which the government is getting, subsidies which the government is providing to the general public. So these are the examples of transfer income. Next, I talk about the concept of final good and intermediate good. Now, final good, when I talk about, first I'm going to tell you two parts or two categories on the basis of what we decide whether a good is a final good or whether a good is an intermediate good. A final good is a final good when it is meant for final consumption, number one, and either meant for investment. So there are two cases. A final good is a final good when it is either for consumption, final consumption purpose or for investment purpose. Similarly, if I talk about intermediate good, so intermediate good is an intermediate when it is meant for either for further resale or for further production to be used up in the same year. So let us take an example to understand the concept of final good and intermediate good. Now, I have purchased a washing machine to be used up at my home for washing my clothes. So as a household, I have purchased this washing machine. So my purpose is final consumption. So in this case, this washing machine purchased by me will be a final good because it is meant for final consumption, household consumption. The same washing machine purchased by a laundry, what it will be. Again, it is a final good, but the reason is because it is meant for investment. The reason changes. Remember, the reason has to be appropriate. Next, if the same washing machine is purchased by an electronic dealer. Now, why will an electronic dealer purchase a washing machine? For further resale. So in this case, this washing machine which is purchased by an electronic dealer becomes an intermediate good because he has purchased this for further resale. I'll take one more example to make you clear this concept. Sugar purchased by me as a household is a final good meant for final consumption. Sugar purchased by a sweet shopkeeper, why will he purchase it? In order to make sweets out of it. So he is using sugar as a raw material meant for further production. So it is an intermediate good. And sugar purchased by a wholesale dealer will be again an intermediate good meant for further resale. So I mean, in the same good can be final as well as an intermediate good, but it all depends on the situation, the end use, that what is the use of that product and who is using that product. So it all depends upon the use of the product. Similarly, students, I would like to make you one thing very clear here. I used a term here when I told you the meaning of intermediate good, that intermediate goods are those goods which are either meant for further resale or for further production to be used up in the same year. So this term to be used up in the same year has to be explained to you. Now, suppose any industry has purchased coal to be used as raw material, and it has purchased 10 tons of coal, and it thought that it will be using this 10 tons of coal as a raw material throughout the year. That means for the current year. But at the end of the year, it has found out that it has only used 7 tons of coal as raw material and 3 tons are still left with him. So these 3 tons, what will the producer or this industry do with these 3 tons? Of course, in the beginning of the next year, it is going to utilize this 3 ton of coal before it purchase some other raw material. Right? So this is what the firm will do. But this 3 tons of coal, which is to be used up in the next year, has already been purchased this year. So now this 7 ton of coal is used as a raw material, will be an intermediate good, but 3 tons of coal will be a final good which is meant for investment, because you have purchased this year, so it is an investment for the next year, which you have already done in this year. Investment is anything, which you purchase for 1 year and you use it up for more than 1 year. So here you are using this raw material for more than 1 year, so it automatically becomes your investment. So 7 tons of coal is your intermediate good, but 3 tons of coal is your final good meant for investment. So that's all for today. There are few more concepts which are remaining, which will be continuing in the next session. Thank you so much.